if you're anything like me, you're sick of looking at this ugly helm station, but I'm intending to get that up into the factory today and start to fair and clean it up. Now in here, I had to position it so that I could put a partition in. Now firstly, I've got my helm pump in. Behind here I have my engine control, so very important that I have plenty of room there. So what my intention to do is to leave this void clearly, so I can get all of my instrument and wiring down here from my MFD will go down in there. The engine controls, all the looms and everything will go down in through those rectangular conduits I have in there. Now I've actually put a partition in, and this partition will have a lid on it, and that'll be sealed off to below, and the advantage of that is then I have a totally separate line box for my spaghetti box, and that's basically going to be how I'm going to do it. I'm going to remove this panel now. Very important I don't put something in before I can access something else, so I'm always in that dilemma here where I'm glassing stuff in. Once something's glassed in, I'm in trouble. Now in behind I will have a large hatch here. It'll actually be a door, probably a panel, and another one here. Now this one will allow me access to my electric winch, and I may even have a smaller one here to use as storage in behind that, because I've just discovered I've got another very valuable storage area, and you can never have enough storage on a boat like this, and that could be where we keep our booze. It could be a very nice little alcohol cupboard. But yeah, anyway, so I'm going to remove that panel now, and I'll start to work on a template for the roof section of the line box, and that'll allow me to seal it all up and get this helm station up into the factory, and I can start to do some serious work on it.
This I went to work on Friday. Every drawing window was a bit cold. We're at the Super Spreader event. Well, good morning. Turning back to you with ABC News. Crossbench senators are holding firm in their opposition to some elements of the federal government.
Why I love Techniglue. It's a good gap filler. It allows you to compensate for your errors and then tidy up later on. It's been amazing stuff. Believe it or not, that's actually looking fantastic. I mean, you've got to have the picture in your brain, and I've got the picture. Sometimes I wonder if it's an abstract picture, but that is actually going to be a huge spaghetti box. That'll handle most of our lines in there, so pretty happy with that. That's going to be superb. I'll put it back in place and make sure it all fits, and then I'll get on to something else for a while. Perfect. Well, let's have a look inside. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Yep, that's perfect. Now that's given me access to the motorised winch, which will be here. The motor will go that way. I could take this whole helm station now up into the factory and give it a real once over, because it's pretty much as I need it. I do need to add a small part here just to complete this section here and I'll probably do that pretty soon, and that way I can get that engaged in there, get it all cleaned up, and then I can go and sand the whole thing down, fair it, and yeah, pretty much get it ready for installation, which is just exciting stuff. So the last piece of the puzzle here for this stern cabin is a section of roof, and I've left it there for a reason, because I'm trying to work out how I'm going to glass the back of it, and it looks like I'm going to have to do all the laminating of all this before the helm station goes in, and then I might have to lay Janet in that slot there, just to do a little bit up in there, because there's no way I'd even get my bloody chest in there, let alone my belly. But yeah, so what I'm going to do is basically glass, or at least glue this in place, and then I can come in and just laminate the whole thing up. It was actually this one here. I've had it cut for probably about 6 months, but I haven't been able to glue it in for very good reason, because I needed access to all of that helm station area and had to work all that out, whether it was actually going to impede on it. But it's going to be quite good, and that will complete the structure of this this cabin. It's a pretty nice little cabin. It's certainly not huge, but that part there will go in, and I'll be able to physically tab all of that together. And then I'm going to have to start working in here. I've got an area in here where I need to do some chain plates, and those chain plate reinforcements are going to be substantial. We're talking like 10 layers of quad to beef up the area there for carrying our chain plates. And yeah, basically, so the whole cabin structure in here is complete except for the robe, and getting this part glued in will be a final step, and then I'll race over and do the other side, and then pretty much I'm going to go and start working on the helm station and try to get that all fed and hopefully painted this week and get it sitting in place. Right, well, that completes the picture in there. Access is going to be a challenge. I've got to basically have some sort of a hatch here, I believe, and obviously a big door there to get into the helm. But yeah, that's looking pretty good. I'm going to work my way over to the other side here. I've got this other roof panel here. This section here is now going to go in, and I'm just going to get them in, because once they're in I can start to glass it all together, and then I'm pretty much finishing up, and then I've just got to tidy up and level up. So I'm all ready down here, got my epoxy, got my panel, and I'm ready to go. Alright, that's now in. It took a bit longer than I thought it was going to. That one needed a lot of backfilling behind it. I'll just show you what it looks like up underneath. As you can see, I've had to put some 100-mile-an-hour tape in there. I had a bit of a problem. It was leaking through. The gap was about a centimetre, and yeah, it wasn't very nice. But it's not really important, because it's going to be fully tabbed and laminated into place there anyway. So yeah, nice to have that in. To be honest, it's given me a lot of momentum today. I've come in and just smashed out a few big jobs, and this is one of them, is getting these final parts in so that I can come in. Next sort of big job I'm going to have is just sanding these off, getting all these areas that I've now glued all laminated. I've already tabbed this door in, and then cutting the full-size doors is going to be nice, because then I won't be ripping my t-shirt open every time I walk through them. That one there is probably about the right size. This one here is not quite tall enough, but as you go forward, down in that forward head, that one right down in there is certainly not anywhere near the size it needs to be. It's got to be a little bit higher, but it's in fact got to be a little bit wider. So yeah, I'm in a bit of a state here, but all good. I mean, sort of flying along today. I've got so much done, and over the weekend, Janet being away, I just sort of didn't have to come home other than to feel guilty to feed the dog, and off I went. I got plenty done. So yeah, pretty happy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to head back up to my helm station. I'm going from one job to another. And yeah, you can see there, that's the new roof there, and then I've built all of this only in the last couple of days and gotten the line box pretty much, you know, the geometry's right. I've just got to get it all tidied up. And now what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to cut out the engine control boxes and basically cut out those cutouts for the actual helm station. There's no point in wasting paint, and I want to be able to make sure that I make them nice and solid and core them, so I'll get them mixed, I'll get them fitted and dry fitted. Yanmar 4JH57 comes standard with this console, and there's two of them obviously, one there, and pretty much I retained this shape for this reason, so that I can actually place them both here just behind the wheel. You're not looking at them all day long, but you're certainly going to be watching the gauges here for our temperature and obviously oil. and you know, a couple of other diagnostic things on here. And the reason why I went for that particular motor is because there is self-diagnosis on it. I want to be able to just say code number 45 is an oil filter. I just want to be able to fix that on the spot rather than have to fly a technician out to Fiji or wherever we may end up, or the next owner of the boat might end up. So I'm going to mount these on here. Alright, I got a bit busy and I've relied on the internet for the installation instructions for my Garmin instruments, my wind instrument, basically depth and speed, etc. But it's a 90mm hole, so I'm hoping to God that when I get home and I check it, that it's a 90mm hole. So pretty much, as you can see, that's the helm station complete, and that's exactly what it's going to look like, with the exception of the anchor winch switch, the rocker switch that I'll be placing in somewhere along there. And what I'm going to be doing is putting a large hatch in the bottom here, and obviously a line box here, a spaghetti box in here somewhere. I've allowed room for that as well, and obviously our two big winches. But yeah, I think that's looking pretty good, ready for fairing, ready for painting. And once I get that done, it's going to look like it actually belonged, and I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's going to be an absolutely amazing modification. When I look back here at the amount of work that's gone into that, just getting the steps right and everything, and I'll fabricate some sort of a seat, a double seat or a triple seat to go up there. Probably be a fiberglass base with some sort of stainless arrangement to hold it. But yeah, I'm pretty happy. That's looking fantastic. So it's nice to fit these things and know that I've got plenty of access in behind it. And a lot of these boats, you don't have a lot of access, whereas I will. I've fabricated this just to make sure I've got tons of access. I've got access to all of this, all the fuses, all the wiring looms, the throttle cable, the helm, obviously, and the winch motor that's going to be up under there. Everything is going to be contained within this cabinet, and it's looking really, really spot on. One of those moments where I'm just walking past something and think, oh, I might have a bit of a go at that. And you know, I do a lot of little things and not a lot of big things, but I'm gonna basically get this window ready to cut out, and I've just worked out how I'm going to do it. I'm going to have to hang it essentially off a couple of screws here, make sure it's all level, mark it out correctly, because I only get one go at this. I don't want to be bogging this up. And I've got the window down here, so I'll be ready to basically hang it and get the grinder out, and may as well have a go at it and see what I'm working with. And should be able to just hang this and get a pretty good. One thing on the inside, there is no architrave or any sort of surround that can cover this. I'd have to fabricate something. I don't really want to. I want to make it nice and neat. So whatever this does, it's going to protrude into the inside, and I have to match the lining to fit it. It's going to be a bit of a challenge, but cutting it out is the key. I'll just get it cut out, and then I'll know what I'm working with. One thing I just discovered though is because I've raised the cabinet for the fridge, luckily, very luckily, there's enough room. It's about here. So pretty happy about that. That could have been a bit of a cluster if I'd cut it out and half of the window was in the cabinet. That would not have been good. But anyway, dodged the bullet. Dodged the bullet. Well, that actually got really ugly and my camera went flat just as I finished it, but I've cut it out. So there we go. It's out. And it's a friggin' big hole. And I'm going to have to trim the core all the way around with a hole saw, or, you know, my orbital, my rotating sander, perhaps the drum sander, to get these curves right, because I'm not prepared to do them with the grinder. It's just not accurate enough. But yep, it's done. And that was a horrible cut.
So with that window installed, I turned my attention to the hard top roof, where the helm station combing edge requires coring and filling with solid resin cotton flock to form a solid edge. This will act as a rain gutter handhold and also stop any water that is on the hard top from falling into the actual helm station itself.
Alright, I cored my rain stopper, or my drip line, or my handle, or whatever you want to call it, and I had a couple of disasters where the router bit ate through the fiberglass. So a little bit of tape, hour later, it's not really an issue. You just have to dam it up and then sand it back. So a couple of areas where it's breached the fiberglass, very important. Just put some tape up. It'll save you a lot of sanding in the long run. But yeah, it's not really a big issue. So I've got some stuff mixed up. I'm going to pump it in. Always try to knock out a job I hate doing before I go home, because that means I don't have to do the bastard in the morning. And coring glass is, coring foam is one of those jobs that's messy. But in the morning, I'm going to come in here and start to shape this thing, you know, and that's just a huge, huge step forward. I could have got some PVC pipe and glassed over it, but you just don't get as good a result. You get a nice round profile, but this is going to be far superior, stronger, although it's not hollow like a piece of conduit. It's super stiff, super strong, and you know, it's just the way they've done the whole boat, really. Done right, done once.